patients. So I've worked. Okay, I'm recording now. We work pretty closely with caregiver agencies to better understand some of the needs that individuals have. In my community specifically, I have a considerable concentration, actually the largest concentration in the state of children who are on life-sustaining medical equipment. And moving those children to a hospital during a disaster simply for a place to plug in their equipment becomes a considerable challenge and overwhelms our local medical system. So we've designed different methods in sheltering those individuals outside of their residential settings so that they have guaranteed power source. The point of that story is that there are solutions available throughout the entire state in every community. The hard part is finding the right person in your community that can help be a proactive participant in your preparedness. So it all starts with you and telling your local officials that the challenges that you have and what resources you might need to keep that stress level down. Um, but we in emergency management and all the counties work hard to make sure that at minimum needs are met, that you have a lifeboat to go to that can be comfortable during these types of incidents. Did you get the PowerPoint?
Not yet.
What? Okay. Let's see here.
This is Nancy Bernal. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi,
Yes.
Nancy.
Okay, thanks. I can see you, but no one else in the group.
Right, that's correct. We're working on our technical difficulties today. And you still don't have that share screen, right, Stephen?
I do not. But I'm going to try sending this another way to you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Stephen before the presentation? There might be some pressing hurricane questions that I'm sure he's probably going to address in his presentation, but perhaps there's something on your mind that you'd like to ask now. And the chat is open. It should be available to you on the bottom of your screen. It's a little bubble and it says chat. So feel free to chat in any questions and I will be happy to read them to Stephen upon the conclusion of the presentation.
I know why you didn't get it, because I replied to the Zoom and it's a random Zoom email. So can you give me your email?
Tina.Duane, Duane. It should pre-fill for you because we've
got it.
Got it. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Very good. All right.
Hopefully now. I'm
No
glad I looked.
problem. No problem. Appreciate everybody being on the call and being patient with us. And like I said, this is going to be recorded. So you will be able to go back if you missed something and view it. We will let you know when it is available. We do have a YouTube channel for folks that didn't know. So we're super excited about our, you can go to YouTube and just type in ALS Association Florida chapter and it will come up and you can see all of our past recordings from our Hope and Help Symposium, some of our walks, last year's webinars that we had. So definitely check us out. Okay, I have it. So I'm going to make sure I am just on the right slide. Oh, you can all see my screen, can't you? Or no?
No.
We can see your face.
Okay. Oh gosh. Oh, you guys are a great group. Thank you for being so understanding. Okay, let's see. Slideshow there. No. From beginning. I'm trying to get rid of the notes I just want to see your oh, here, this button, I think we press. Slideshow.
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting there, guys. I know there's a way to just press one button and it just shows the slides rather than all of the side notes here.
I already raised my hand to show it down there.
Stephen, what in PowerPoint, what do you normally click on? Just the slideshow?
Yeah.
So that it gets rid of the side display. That's what I'm trying to get rid of, and it's not allowing me to do that.
Let me see.
Hit
Okay, maybe we'll
So
just
now we probably won't be able to see the side things
Okay.
once you start the presentation.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's try that then. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen now. Can everybody see? Can you see the PowerPoint? Are you still
Nope.
seeing?
Not yet.
Okay, let me move it over to my second screen. Sorry. Okay, let's try this again. Share screen. Screen one. Okay.
Oh, God.
Somebody's eating something.
You can go eat something. You didn't bring snacks?
No.
No, I was just saying your PowerPoint was coming up and it came up somebody eating something.
Oh goodness. Okay, is it
Here we
all
go.
right now?
There we
I don't know
go.
what it looks like. I'm sorry, but that's what we have right now. So, all
Perfect.
right. To no further ado, Stephen, it's all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So if you want to go through to the next slide, that'd be great. All right. So during the presentation today, I'm going to give you an update on the 2023 hurricane season forecast. We're going to talk about some personal preparedness activities. We're going to talk about special needs shelters and how to find the right place in your community across the state of Florida. And then what's next? So what to do, what to do now after you hear this presentation, now that we're into hurricane season. Next slide. So one of the things I love about my job is that there's a lot of people who like to look at numbers. And while we are very numbers focused, it's important to know that there are tons of different hurricane season forecasts. So for 2023, just this alone, you can see on the screen there's 3 different forecasts from 3 different valid media sources. And my question to you is, does it really matter? And I say this to everybody in the community that, whether you have a tropical storm, a tropical depression, a hurricane, a major hurricane, I think it all affects us the same, and that we should all take the same preparedness measures in place. So we can definitely get hung up on numbers, but at the end of the day, in your community and how this affects you, it really only takes one. In my community specifically, anybody who's on the West Coast, obviously this didn't affect them the same way as it did on the East Coast, but Hurricane Ian last year on the East Coast of Florida in my community did not experience Hurricane Ian. We experienced Tropical Storm Ian. And even with the tropical storm force winds, it caused a considerable amount of damage and flooding. I can't even begin to fathom those individuals that rode out the storm on the West Coast when it made landfall. It was a massive storm that caused a significant amount of damage, but keeping that in mind, as the storm progressed through the state of Florida, it got weaker, but it still caused an immense amount of damage. So point of that story is it doesn't matter if you have a hurricane, a tropical storm, or a major hurricane. It's never too late to think about that preparedness. Next slide, please. So I'm going to share some facts about hurricanes. So September 10th is the most frequented day for landfalling hurricanes in history. So what you see here is the frequency of hurricanes and then how the storms get named. And you'll see that as we get to that September 10th time frame, that number jumps up considerably. So yes, there are anomalies, but if you plot the time frame of named storms and when storms become hurricanes, you'll see that there is a direct correlation between that August, end of August into early October, with September being the peak there. So while we are in the early stages of hurricane season, we have a long way to go. So if you go to the next slide. So development. So when you look historically at development in each of the major months of hurricane season, you'll see in June, storms typically come up through the Gulf of Mexico. In August, we start to see that trend out into the Atlantic. In September, we see a mix with much stronger development occurring out in the Atlantic. And that warm water tends to really increase the ability for storms to ramp up quickly. So I was talking to our National Weather Service representative yesterday, and right now the water temperatures in the Atlantic are extremely hot. We're looking at 3 to 4 degrees above average temperatures. So the conditions are very ripe right now for significant hurricane development. But again, that could change as we move through the season. And then you'll see in November, we see a major shift in how typical tracks work coming through the Yucatan Peninsula all the way out into the Atlantic. Still, we're not completely out of the woods on vulnerability in the United States for hurricanes, but particularly Florida plays a considerable role throughout all of hurricane season. So this is just some historical trends and how things evolve through the hurricane season based on different weather patterns. Next slide, please. These are your 2023 hurricane season names. You'll see Arlene is crossed out. That's because last week we did have Tropical Storm Arlene, which was very short-lived. So we have a few more names to go. And then those of you know that we've had some historical hurricanes in the hurricane seasons in the past. When they run out of names, they go to the Greek alphabet. And then there have been alternate names that are used in place of the Greek alphabet during some seasons. I get a lot of questions of, didn't we have a Hurricane Ophelia in the past? Yes, these names are cycled through every 6 years. And from what I understand, the National Hurricane Center is always taking suggestions for I names. So if you have a good I name, there's a committee of people who decide the hurricane season names, and they're always looking for new I names. So keep that in mind as well. Next slide. These are some also additional facts. So there will never be a Hurricane Justa. And this is an important thing to see, to understand is, often I hear from residents is, oh, it's just a category 1. I lived through Charlie, or I lived through Andrew, and that didn't cause too much damage. Justa will never be a hurricane name. So please do not judge a hurricane by past hurricanes that have impacted you or your community. Every storm is different, and every storm poses unique challenges. Some are very small in nature, like Hurricane Charlie. They were small, but it was very much a windstorm in 2004. whereas Hurricane Ian last year was very much a water-based storm. We saw very little wind damage and extensive amount of flooding damage. So each hurricane is different, and please do not prepare for a new hurricane based on previous hurricane scenarios. We often see that there have been more Category 4 hurricanes that have made landfall since 2017 than from 1963 to 2016 combined. So what does that mean? That means that storms are getting stronger, that preparedness is more important now than ever, and things are changing. So regardless of what you agree with or disagree with in terms of climate adaptation, we know that the conditions are changing and storms are becoming more intense. What we often see is, one of the big statistics that comes out after hurricanes is fatalities. And believe it or not, fatalities are typically not from wind and storm surge. They're actually from people who are curious after the storm, trying to do damage assessment or debris removal. People get up on ladders to pull tree limbs off their roof. People start to use chainsaws to cut up trees, and we often see most fatalities in the immediate recovery stages after a hurricane, of people trying to do the good things that they do to get back to normal. So please, at all costs, use caution when using any type of machinery or equipment or a ladder or something like that to do recovery work around your home, because that's when we see most of the fatalities. Another element here is little wobbles matter. So what we focus on a lot is that little black line that ends up appearing on our screens when we get that cone of uncertainty that comes out from the National Hurricane Center. And what that little black line represents is statistically a line of best fit from hundreds of hurricane models that are projected from the National Hurricane Center. There's all kinds of different models. Some years, certain models are more reliable than others. But instead of relying significantly on one model, because we know what happens when we put all our eggs in one basket, the line of best fit is drawn, and that's when you see that little black line throughout the community. Now, what that cone means is that the center of the storm can strike anywhere with 150 miles distance of that little black line. So depending on how large the storm is versus how small the storm is, or how strong or how long it spends over the Atlantic, can really dictate the impacts to your community. A good example of this is Hurricane Irma versus Hurricane Matthew. In Irma, we saw a little wobble that ended up impacting all 67 counties in Florida, where the storm took a last-minute turn and went right up the spine of Florida. Whereas in Matthew, we saw a 40-mile jog to the east, which really spared a lot of communities from being impacted by Matthew. Another element of hurricane facts is rapid intensification is common, and we're seeing this more and more since 2017. It is very common in 48 hours for a Category 1 storm or even a tropical storm to go from tropical storm status or Category 1 status all the way up to a Category 4 or 5 status in a matter of 48 hours. So just because a storm is a lower category as it makes its way onshore does not mean that that category will not intensify. And primarily that is due to the fact that as a storm moves closer to land, the water becomes warmer. So rapid intensification is very common with hurricanes. Next slide. So what can you do? Specifically for individuals with medical or access needs, You have very unique planning considerations for yourselves and your loved ones. You have very different equipment, medication, or special food supplies that you need that are not particularly provided at traditional shelters or are very typically are very difficult to find in a non-traditional scenario. So in the planning phase of hurricane season, please take note of all of those unique products, durable medical equipment, consumables that you may use, and start to stock up on those. And I'm not saying go to the store and spend hundreds of dollars at one time to make a really good disaster kit or a plan. I'm saying to go to the store each week, spend a little bit extra, and put that little bit of extra somewhere else. So that eventually, hopefully by September, you have a really good cache of supplies that you may need if you have to leave. If you already know that your home may not be safe, if you live in a mobile manufactured home, if you live in an area that's low lying, that is prone to flooding, if you know that you have roof repairs or repairs that need to be done around your home that you've been putting off, consider evacuations. Evacuating is very costly in some cases, and it's very stressful. So when you make the decision to evacuate, be very intentional about it and do not wait till the last minute. We often see times where people are on the fence about evacuating because the storm may start to intensify, the track changes, and we understand that that process is very frustrating and trying to make a really good decision based on the cone and the predictions that you see. But if you feel that you may need to evacuate, make those decisions early and commit to that decision. And again, consider your medical equipment, medications, or special food supplies. If you do decide to shelter at home, think about, is your home safe for the next storm? Like I said earlier, planning for the previous hurricane is not a good practice. So thinking about if your home could be safe in the worst case scenario, chances are if your home was built after 2010, your home's adopted updated building code, which allows the home to be sustainable in category 3 winds on average. But please take that into consideration. If you have someone who can check on you if you live alone, if you do live alone, or you know somebody who does live alone, make a plan for somebody to check on you. Because if we don't hear from you, if power is down, if communications are down, it's very difficult to know if you're okay, especially if you live alone. If your home has a generator, have you tested it? Please, please, please test your generator. And do not test your generator inside or near a window. We get a ton of carbon monoxide calls in the Emergency Operations Center because people do not operate their generator properly. So please take some time to test that generator. It's very much like a car. If you are not maintaining it, it's probably not going to work when you need it most. And those individuals that that need electricity to run a medical device or keep products refrigerated and need that power, it's very important that that generator stays operational. And then most of all, if you have additional supplies put together, stock it up. So going to the next slide, these are some examples of emergency kit items that would be very helpful for you to think about, and some that are often forgotten. So obviously special food, if you have a special dietary restriction that you're only able to eat a certain type of food, that will likely not be provided for you at an emergency shelter if you choose to evacuate to one. So please make sure you have some of that extra food. Grocery stores will likely be impacted. You're not going to be able to go to a grocery store as you would normally after a hurricane. in many cases, so stocking up on that food is important. Medication, particularly with special needs and complex needs clients, we see residents that are on a significant amount of medication. When the governor declares a state of emergency under Florida statute, a pharmacy can supply an extra 10 days of medication to you. So if and those states of emergency are typically declared well in advance of the storm to allow for personnel to start moving equipment, ordering additional resources. But in addition, we often see people flood the grocery store to stock up on extra supplies. Do not be one of those people. It adds to the additional stress, and it's very frustrating when you're waiting in long lines just to get some batteries and water. So do that now. There's no need to wait for the hurricane to start brewing, for you to stock up on these items. And what I do is if I don't use the items in my kit, let's say we have a really good year and my family doesn't use those items, I donate them around the holiday time and start over. So it's a great way for you to give back to the community. But going back to medication, under the state of emergency, a pharmacy can dispense an extra 10-day supply. So please make sure you have that. You may need water to operate a medical equipment. I myself am a CPAP user, so distilled water is very important for me. So I have an extra cache of distilled water that can be used in my medical device. Sleeping items, if you do go to a shelter, typically at a shelter, you're provided a space on the floor. And in some cases, some communities offer cots. So you may want to invest in an air mattress or a chair that you could sleep in that might be comfortable. So keep that in mind as well. Medical documents. Medical documents are so important, and today, often at doctors' offices, they come in and they chart on a computer and they walk away, and there's never anything tangible for you to take with you when you leave the doctor. Prescriptions are now sent automatically to a pharmacy. You don't have to take a prescription with you to a pharmacy unless you're doing some sort of specialty pharmacy. But the importance of having medical documents with you in your kit and contacts for your durable medical companies. If a particular piece of equipment breaks or is not operational, it's important for you to have those phone numbers handy for your durable medical equipment companies so they can provide service to you after the disaster. Powered wheelchair users, you should consider a standard manual wheelchair as a backup if you do not have one. Please consider working through your insurance or a community organization to obtain a manual wheelchair because you may not be able to charge the battery on that powered wheelchair, and that would be catastrophic to you if that is something that you use to get around. Next slide, please. Stay informed. So we're all trying to stay informed and make really good decisions for how to react during storms. And one of those ways that you can do that is to sign up for a local alerting system. Each community in Florida has a local alerting system. By statute, the county typically has a alert notification system where you can receive emails, text, voice calls, TTY calls, whatever that's available to you. Please sign up for local alerting systems and sign up for multiple. If you have a favorite news network, chances are they have a notification system as well. Why do you sign up for multiple? We sign up for multiple because there will always be one that probably doesn't work. There'll be some sort of failure, and you still really want to make sure that you have that redundancy. Yes, we understand that the emergency alerts at times do become annoying, but I would rather that you have information and be annoyed than be in the dark and not being able to make the right decisions for yourself and your family. Make your vulnerability known to your local first responders. If you are vulnerable and you know you have, a disability or you need additional assistance in evacuating, one of the ways that you can do that is to register for your local special needs registry. If you go to this website, snr.flhealthresponse.com, and Tina, I'm hoping that you can share that link with people as well. You can click the county that you are a resident in Florida, and it'll direct you for how you should register for their special needs registry, whether that is through a phone call to their office or it provides you access to a registration portal for you to subscribe to their special needs registry. Additionally, what you can do is call your local non-emergency number, your fire department, or your sheriff's office, or your local police department, and just ask them to place some notes in their computer-aided dispatch system, so that if you do have to call 911 or you do need assistance for some reason, they have some notes about what exists at your address. Additionally, another way to stay informed is have a NOAA weather radio. This type of item is a technology that's been around for a very long time. It allows you to receive an audible alert directly to your weather radio. You can purchase a weather radio at any grocery store or any pharmacy or hardware store. And the weather radio is very important because sometimes we do not have those audible alarms that wake us up, especially during hurricane scenarios. A lot of much like me, I like to sleep when it's raining outside. It's very calming for me to fall asleep when I know that the rain's hitting the roof. But when that tornado roars through the community at 12 midnight to 4 a.m., which is the most frequented time for tornadoes to impact us, I want that audible alarm that's going to wake me up, and that weather radio does just that. It's very loud, but it's very helpful when something like that is coming. If you don't have an AM/FM radio, a lot of people are getting away from AM/FM radio and they subscribe for satellite radio or something like that. The wireless emergency alert systems broadcast through the AM/FM radios still. So consider that as a backup form of, or a primary form of a way to stay informed. Satellite radio systems do not have a method in place to broadcast local emergency alerts. So if you are relying on satellite radios to do that, it is not a good method to do so. Social media, those of you that use social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, whatever it is, sign up or like or friend, whatever jurisdiction you belong to, whether that be a local city or a local county. Chances are they're putting out information on social media through there and through our website. So identify what those are now so that later on you don't have any issues doing so. Next slide. So sheltering, I'm going to talk briefly about sheltering, but I hope that you don't ever have to go to a shelter. But a shelter is such that it is a place of last resort. It is not a fun type of environment to be in. A shelter is a lifeboat, not a cruise ship. You get a spot on the floor, typically, and you can be guaranteed a safe place to stay with some meals, is very limited supplies. If you have a particular condition that requires assistance, please bring a caregiver with you. If you're unable to care for yourself, there will not be staff typically at shelters, especially now as staffing shortages become a huge issue in the medical community. Having a caregiver present with you is very important. If your medical needs capability exceeds what your local special needs shelter can provide, please work with your physician or individual that you seek medical attention from on a daily basis to come up with a plan. Many counties have very various levels of capability. So an example of this is, as departments of health throughout the county and throughout the counties in Florida have different staffing capabilities and different expertise capabilities. The county to my south, Orange County, has a higher medical capability to provide service to their residents, simply because they have equipment and staff that's trained to operate things like Hoyer lifts. That's one of the big sticking points in my community is we do not accept individuals on a special needs shelter registry that require a Hoyer lift to get in and out of bed because we don't have them. Not only do we not have them, but we don't have staff that's skilled in operating the Hoyer lift. So if that is something, if you use a particular medical device or durable medical equipment that you require to be provided on site that's not easily transported, please work with your local community and try to understand that level of capability in your community to support your needs in a shelter if you have to go to one. Next slide. So what the question is, what if they don't take me? What do I do now? If they don't take me at a special needs shelter in my community, what should I do? The best thing to do is to make an arrangement with hospital or high acuity care center as a fall through or backup plan. Contact your local emergency management office to discuss these options. We want an emergency management to help you and have a allow you to have a contingency plan in place that's going to best fit your needs. We also have partnerships with community organizations like the Centers for Independent Living and long-term care facilities for temporary stays. So what you may not qualify to because of your conditions to be in an assisted living or nursing home, but they may have space available for you to stay temporarily where they do have backup power to support your needs. So please work through your local emergency management office to do that. If this continues to be a problem and you do not want to evacuate initially, reconsider that as a possibility. Sometimes being out of the impact area for a storm is much more of a stress reliever to not have to deal with the extended power loss and taking cold showers and eating food that's not cold or able to be heated up. That's stressful. It's not something that we want to have impact our daily lives. So reconsider that evacuation and consider getting out of the area. Again, do not wait for the last minute for your plans to fall apart. Make up a backup plan with your physician or medical provider. The time to plan for hurricanes is now, as we're in the early stages of hurricane season. And it's so important to make this a priority, especially if you're new to Florida. We've received a lot of new residents over the last few years that have never experienced a hurricane. And if this is your first hurricane season, welcome. But please also be very aware of your plans and any supplies that you may need to help you in recovery or something like this happens this year. I hope it doesn't. But with that, that's my presentation, and I'll take any questions from anybody. I want this to be collaborative and helpful for you. So if you have any questions particular to your community, I'd love to chat with you about it.
And if those of you need to use the chat, feel welcome to do that as well. Questions, anybody? It was a great presentation, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Peter, you have your, oh no, that was Stephen. I thought you had your hand up. Any questions for Stephen?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, my dad, he has ALS and he's on the vent. In that situation, will it be more secure for him to go to the hospital instead of him staying home?
Yes, so your primary need there is power. So
Yeah.
there's a few things that I would suggest that you do. One is you need to test your battery packs so that if you do have to transport him a long distance, that you have enough battery to get to where you need to go. Do not wait to evacuate if you do feel that he needs to leave, because if you wait too long, you could find yourself stuck in traffic in different places, and traffic for you when moving him could be a major impact to his health. So making sure that those batteries are working appropriately is very important. Number two, there are different places throughout your community, depending on where you live, that have guaranteed generator power. So if you do not have a generator in the home, at the home, making arrangements through a hospital, an acute care facility, an assisted living, a home health care company may be able to refer you to a place in your community that can do just that. One of the places that you can absolutely usually guarantee power is a hospital, but keep in mind that the hospitals have different policies and procedures about accepting people from that aren't admitted in their facility, just accepting the public needing a place to plug in. So I would also consider what your evacuation plan would be if a large enough storm came to your community, how you would get out of the area and move your dad so that you can have that guaranteed power. It's a very difficult decision to make to evacuate, but if you need to do it for the safety of your family, commit to it.
Okay. So I will have to provide the transportation, like I will have to take them. They won't pick them up basically if they provide the service in the hospital, let's say.
Usually they will not transport you. You'll have to find a way to do that. But if you choose to go to a special needs shelter in your community, a lot of times the county will provide transportation. But many of the special needs shelter capabilities, they will not take individuals that are on life-sustaining equipment that needs power, simply because the power source is not guaranteed at a special needs shelter. So the time now is to have these discussions and talk about where you're going to go. Sometimes it might be a friend's house that has a generator that you know is going to stay operational and has enough fuel. So really start to talk about that and work out those plans. But no, unfortunately, a lot of times the only way to get to the hospital during these types of scenarios is in an ambulance. And that could pose a considerable amount of stress and challenges, not only for your dad, but for first response partners as well.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure.
Those are good questions, Janella. I'm glad you
Yeah.
asked them.
Very good question.
So there is a question in the chat, Stephen. There's someone who lives in Palm Beach, and she's
Sure.
actually probably would be in an evacuation unit because she's right on A1A. She
Okay.
would need a Hoyer lift, and she's on a vent.
Okay.
The cot is
Yeah,
definitely
so
not comfortable.
absolutely not. And we do not want that individual on a cot because it's just not safe for them
Right.
to be on a cot. So what I would suggest you do is contact your local emergency management office at the county and talk with them about your situation. There may be, I know that Palm Beach has very well equipped community in terms of resources. They may be able to accommodate you. The challenge is going to be the ventilator and having that guaranteed power source. So they may have a relationship already with a healthcare provider that has a place for you to plug in. But if you are still not getting the warm and fuzzy from that, you need to consider evacuating. And I hate to continue to have that as an option, but if you need power and there is no power, your only option is to go to a place with power. And a lot of times, depending on how bad the power infrastructure is destroyed after a storm, it could impact the local hospitals. We try not to and make sure that they have power all the time, but it is possible. We saw it in the Panhandle with Hurricane Michael, where hospitals were without power for a very long period of time. And we don't want that to happen, but sometimes it does. And the time to plan for it again is now. And if you think that you're not getting a really good gut feeling about the discussions that you're having with your providers or your local agency, then you really need to consider evacuation.
I think it's a good idea too, for planning ahead purposes. If you have animals, look,
Oh my goodness, yes.
I don't know how far, thinking now, okay, we don't know if a hurricane's coming, but I think it would be very good to know what hotels in maybe South Georgia or the middle of Georgia, in case the hurricane goes north, kind of seek out those hotels ahead of time that are pet friendly, and what's the weight limit, and do they accept cats? And
Yes,
because I'm not going anywhere without my cats, and
absolutely.
I have 2 German Shepherds, so some of you have service dogs, I'm sure would be excluded, but if you have larger dogs, so maybe finding out now, doing that research. And if some of you, aren't comfortable, enlist the help of your grandkids or your kids, or, your nieces or nephews that love to be on the internet, have them look out and make it a little game. Who can come up with the best price hotel, or, that has these, amenities that we need. So definitely, I think it would be good to do your research now, and even different parts. There's really no place we can go but north. So, seeking out possibly Georgia and northern Florida, the Panhandle, possibly. I don't know. I guess, Stephen, it's hard to say, right now, but at least to have.
Yeah, it's very hard to say.
Yeah.
Very hard to say.
Any other questions? Make sure there's nothing else in the chat. I did put in our YouTube channel. Thanks to Jackie for helping me with that. I was so afraid to get off my screen. I didn't want to mess anything up. So thanks, Jackie, for looking that up. But our YouTube channel is is in the chat, as is the link for the special needs registry. So folks can copy and paste that. And your program manager can also provide that to you if you aren't able to get that here. And I just want to make sure there's no other questions in the chat. Okay, no other questions in the chat. So are there any other questions for Stephen? I did mute all of you, so if you're talking, you are on mute, so you'll have to come off of mute. There, Peter. Do you have a question?
No question.
Okay. Well, if no one has any questions, I will let Stephen go. Stephen, thank you so much for your time again, your expertise. I do hope and pray that we don't need to use any of this great knowledge, but it is very helpful, especially to this very precious community. And, we just really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you do a lot of these, and so to have us on your calendar is very helpful, and we're very appreciative. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to do it, and I hope we don't need it this year.
Exactly. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions for any of us, I'm happy to stay on the call. I know we are scheduled till 3, but we can, I want to open up, this to anybody that might have some questions regarding the ALS Association. I will share with all of you that are on the call. We are very excited about our upcoming Hope and Help Symposium, which is on September 9th. And that is in Orlando at the Rosen Shingle Creek Resort. And it is an all-day event filled with lots of information on ALS research. We're going to have a learning lab where you can go in and learn how to use different pieces of equipment, speak with a dietitian or a speech pathologist. respiratory. Our loan closet folks are going to be there showing you how to use different pieces of equipment. We also have the Ask the Docs panel where most of the neurologists from the Florida clinics will be there. We have a lot of guest speakers planned to share on topics that are interesting for you, that are going to be helpful to the ALS community. We have a lot of vendors there that are going to share their services, what they provide to the ALS community. We also have the day before the event on Friday night, a family reception. So that's where folks can come out, mingle with the ALS Association, those of us here. Also, the doctors will be there, the neurologists from the clinics, and the other vendors that are there, and some of the clinic disciplines will be there as well. And so there is an hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, cash bar. So we invite you to come to that. And then on Saturday for the event, breakfast is included, as is lunch. And we do have a mashed potato bar, some soft foods for folks that, maybe have some, need some amendments in their diets. And then the Rose and Shingle also provides a discounted rate for the hotel, which is really nice of them to do that. I had an old link or just the regular link for the hotel, and I clicked on it as I was about to send out an email, and I saw the price. I thought, oh my goodness, I had included the wrong link. So my director kindly shared with me the right link, and it's quite a bit, almost a 50% discount. So it's a really nice hotel, and we're very excited about it. So you can reach out to your program manager. If you are in the West Coast, your program manager, Charlene Caro, which I'm sure you all know Charlene. And then the Tampa area, we have Lauren Lamar. Reach out to Lauren. A little bit above Lauren in Tallahassee, Gainesville. And girls, I'm so sorry, I'm not very good with my geography, but we have Melissa Alsame and Judy Benwick in that area. And then over Jacksonville, Melissa's covering the Jacksonville area. And then in the Orlando area, we have Alicia Nunez. And then in the Treasure Coast down to Broward is me. And then in the Miami-Dade and the Keys is Kimberly San Martin. So reach out to your program manager for any questions, any updates, any support groups you're looking for, your clinics, questions, any grants that are available, any services. If you need equipment from our loan closet, we have lots of services and resources for you guys, but we can't share them if we don't know you need the information. So please reach out. We're here to help and guide you, and lead you so this journey can be as easy as possible. Does anybody have any questions for me? A lot of the team is on here. Any questions? The Hope and Health Symposium information is on Facebook. You also should have gotten an email from your program manager, so you can reach out to them if you don't have it, so you can sign up ahead of time. Girls, does my team, our team have anything they want to add? Or we have our Director of Care Services on. Anybody want to share anything?
That you did amazing, and this was great, and it was very informative, so thank you.
Awesome. Sure. Thank you. Appreciate everybody's.
You did a great job, and I dropped the link in the chat too if anybody wants to register.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, well, I will end it here. If no one else has any questions, I wanted to just give anybody the opportunity that wanted it to speak with us. But you can find out any information about our various support groups that we have on our website, which is als.org/Florida. And we have all of our support groups there. We have some new ones out, newly diagnosed, which honestly, even for folks that maybe have been living with ALS for some time, it's a great series. They go through 6 or 7 topics and they rotate. So they go through the whole 6 every other week, and then they start over again. So if you missed, say, week 2, you can catch up again. And then we have a Living with ALS series that's phenomenal as well. We have a Caregiver statewide group that Judy does, which is great, a veterans group, and then we have our local groups. So there's lots for you guys to join and hop on and get to know other folks.
I've got a question.
Sure.
It took me a while to find out how to unmute my screen.
Oh, that's okay.
My husband's on partial tube feeding. So I guess I need to amass cases of the Jevity liquid feeding in advance of hurricane season, because we always have a case or something, but
Right.
we don't really have enough to last for weeks if we lost electricity or something like that.
Sure, sure. So perhaps the next time that you place an order, do they usually call you, or do you call in when you need to
I
do
call in and refill it like a prescription at the
Okay.
VA.
Oh, you're the with the Veterans Association.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's perfect. Maybe the next time you call in, ask them if how they handle the hurricane. Do they provide an extra case or two? Do they suspect any shortages or delays
Yeah.
if a hurricane's coming? Thankfully, you don't have to refrigerate the formula, but it's good to know for you to have extra and how they
Yeah.
can work that.
Okay.
That's a great point. Definitely. All right. Well, very good. It was so nice to see. I guess it was nice for you guys to see me since I couldn't see you, but I appreciate everybody's patience with getting the webinar started. I hope you found it all very helpful. And again, thank you for your time today. We'll let you know when the link is up on our YouTube channel, which again is in the chat. And as always, please wait, don't wait till your next clinic appointment. If you have questions or you need to talk to us, we're here to answer any questions and to help you as best we can. So stay safe, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, team, for being on.